Okay, we're live. This episode will come out today because we're going to try to stay with current events.
Nice.
Wow.
There's an episode I owe, which you guys will get a double feature today, ladies and gentlemen who are joining us for this episode of the Draxx
Yeah.
Life. This will be a current events episode since there's so much going on in current events that
I like it.
we need to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
I got Bobby A, who is dressed. He's our reporter. He's
Shout
our
out
man, our
everyone.
eye in the sky, the man, the boots on the ground. He's
That's right.
dressed to impress. I got
I got
Joseph
no one to
Mark.
interview. Yeah.
Got the bamboo tree in the background. Joseph Mark, who's
Yeah.
actually probably the most informed of the bunch.
Yep.
So he's geared up and ready to
A
go.
resident expert.
Resident
Yeah.
expert.
Yeah.
He's the one that has the most comprehensive understanding of geopolitics,
Correct.
and is
It's
probably
true,
the,
though.
the least emotional of the bunch.
Yeah. That's
All right,
I'll give you
also
that.
true.
I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Fair. So he's taking this compliment. That's why it's the truth when he takes the compliment.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to be talking about what's specifically, because there's a lot in current events. We're going to talk about specifically Iran, Israel, America, what's pretty much been unfolding since June 13th. Before we do that, let's just set the table and for me, I needed to look back and say, I know Iran, but I wanted to do a little bit of a deep dive on just like their history, what's been leading up, and at a high level, what's been this dance between Iran and Israel that goes back really to 79. So we're going to start with history on 10x speed. So we're going to go back a few thousand years, and then we're going to end up.
But this is important.
Yeah,
This is.
it is.
But before you go, I want to.
Go ahead.
I want to. I'm saying this is good by you because what's not happening in the current coverage of all this is like knowing the history of what's happening for thousands of years in this region of the world, which is important to know.
Perfect. Thank you.
You see it, but you see what I'm saying? Like,
And all I'll say is
you
this.
need to know this to understand the situation.
Yeah, and for anyone who's listening to us,
Yeah.
again, this is us doing very just like I'm surveying, right? But I would say do a little bit of a deep dive, because one thing it's like I think it's worthwhile to note, like if you're American and those listening to us, especially listening to TikTok clips, probably from all over the world.
Yeah.
From Americans' perspective, right, our history only goes back a few hundred years. And then you got to get in a boat and cross an ocean to wherever your ancestors came from. But something that I think as Americans we don't realize is that in other parts of the world, their history goes back thousands, if
Millennia.
not tens of thousands of years, right?
Mhm.
So when you meet someone who calls himself a Persian, because there's many people who call themselves Persian, here's a question: where on a map is Persia? We can't find it, but Iran and probably the countries surrounding it make up this ancient civilization that was Persia. And it's just interesting to note that even people today, thousands of years later, think of themselves as those people who existed, before Christ.
Perfect. Exactly.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
And these are, history does impact the present, even if sometimes we don't consciously realize it.
Right.
So I just want to set that as part of the seasoning.
Yeah.
So again, if you've ever seen, just the kind of broad strokes, ancient history, right? When you've watched the movie 300, this is Sparta, right? The enemy of that storyline is Persia, right? It is Xerxes, right? It is this part of the world of which we're going to be talking about for the next hour, right? When you hear of characters like Xerxes or Cyrus the Great, right? These people are in this area of Iran, right? In the Iranian mindset, even if they're not aware, that's kind of the origins of their history, and these are the founding fathers to some degree of what is Persia, what is now modern day Iran. So again, Alexander the Great, someone of many people know about, he's part of their narrative, right? He's the one who conquered them, right? We have the Romans who then conquered, the descendants of Alexander the Great, the generals that took over this, chopped up his empire, right? We have, Arab invaders that came in like the 600s who, you ask the question, where did Islam enter this storyline? We have Arab invaders that come in and conquer this area, and now the predominant religion of modern day Iran is Islam, right? Genghis Khan, my favorite historical character to read about, his descendants are part of this story because his descendants at one point conquered and took over parts of what is Iran. So you have all of these major characters in history that have done this dance in this particular part of the world. right? So if we fast forward more, there's a period where all of the foreign invaders who've left their impact and their influence are kicked out. And now you have a series of, let's say, homegrown dynasties. And if
Mm-hmm.
we fast forward more, when you hear of the word the Shah, right, that's kind of this last dynasty that started around 1925 and then ended in 1979, where we have kind of more or less the foundation of modern day Iran, the Israeli Republic, as it's also known. So something to be kind of aware of is that the Shah, right? When people talk about Iran, the Shah, it's usually this is the person they're talking about, though there are many Shahs in their history, right? He led a time, and again, different people are going to interpret events differently, but let's say broad strokes, he's considered there was a time of modernization and there was also a time of secularization. So if you look at like pictures of 1960s Iran, you would have thought you were maybe looking at pictures of 1960s America. Girls in short skirts running around having a good time, right? Different people look at that as positive. Some people look at that as a negative. But that's kind of characterized this time of like liberalism within that country. 1979, there is the revolution in Iran, right? Now we have a shift. What was once a secular country, though authoritarian,
Mm-hmm.
now became a very much more conservative religious country where the governing body changed. So now you have a supreme leader who is a religious figure to some degree. You have a president who's now running, or prime minister who's running the kind of the governing agencies. But at the top, you have a religious figure, and you have a return to a more of a orthodox Islamic religion. Coinciding with this is really the break. This is 1979 between Israel and Iran. So just they might have been somewhat allies leading up. Now we see the fissure in their relationship. Now note, 1980 we have Iraq invades Iran, right? So Iraq is the boogeyman of our youth. He also was someone that both
Saddam
Iran
Hussein.
and Israel he was their enemy. Iraq was their enemy. When Iran is attacked by Iraq, Israel supports Iran because they both see Iraq as the more dangerous foe, and neither of them wants that country to win. I think Saddam Hussein is actually the leader of
Yeah,
Iraq at this time.
correct.
So that's broad strokes. Behind the scenes, we have two, right? We have the Israel Arab. There's been conflicts between the Arab states and Israel, right? That goes back, let's say, 1948 to 1979. At a certain point, the Arab states kind of say, Israel, we allow you, like we accept you, whatever you want to call it. Then you have really the kick up of the breakdown between Iran and Israel. And now you've had since the 80s, since pretty much our birth, these kind of proxy wars. So you have is Iran pretty much supporting Hezbollah, which lives in Lebanon, and you have it supporting Hamas, and they've been kind of duking it out kind of behind the scenes, right? Israel will do an attack, will destroy this type of military base, assassinate these leaders. Iran is constantly pumping resources, military and non-military resources, to other groups. They accuse Israel of supporting, internal freedom fighters and rebel groups within the Iranian country. And this is all going on, and this has kind of been part of the narrative for the last 40 years between Iran and Israel. So I want to set that's the table, that's the world that we've been living in. So whether you're just like talking about this now, oh, Iran, Israel, this is not modern. This has been going on for some time, and that relationship's been changing. So now I just want to hit what was once a proxy war has kind of turned into a hot war between
Yeah.
Iran and Israel. So here are the broad strokes, and then we'll go into a conversation. So
Mm-hmm.
June 13th is when history books will identify as the Iran Israel war, right? June 13th, opening strikes. Israel sends IDF launches 5 waves of strikes using 200 plus fighter jets. They pretty much are targeting nuclear sites, um, main headquarters, any type of military installation. There's heavy destruction. Iran, in response, launches various drone attacks and missile attacks. June 14th. So today, as of today, we're on June 20th. So this happened a week ago. June 14th, this is all intensifying, right? IDF is hitting a nuclear tech center, air bases in Tabriz, Shiraz, Hamadan, Parchin, and Fordal. Iran is also sending hundreds of missiles in response to Tel Aviv and various other areas. Um, June 15th, again, now the whole region is starting to intensify. Everyone is now kind of on red alert. We have the Houthi coordination. So the Houthis, another group that Iran is kind of is said to use as a proxy. They're kind of now doing attacks. Germany has been warned of Iranian threats to various Jewish communities. June 16th, there's been civilians. I guess there's been some civilian targets. So a deadly barrage in Iran hit a school. This is Iranians attacking, sending missiles to Israel. So they've hit a school. A hospital was hit. They've also hit some. IDF has hit some more like key resources within the Iranian state. June 17th, there's been various leadership that have been assassinated, Iranian leadership. June 18th, again, we're continuing with the strategic infrastructure that's targeted by Israel to Iran. June 19th, again, now we have America is kind of being drawn more and more into this. And that's kind of where we are now. There's definitely more details, like look this stuff up. This is all kind of broad strokes. So, all right, hope that kind of sets the table. I'm going to kick it to, Avery or Joe,
Yeah,
whoever you
I
want to
got this.
go. We can kind of start to talk about some of the stuff. Ho!
What a sick intro that was. I do have one criticism though. I believe in the Persian world, the pronunciation is Iran. So I would.
There you go.
That's what I would say. But you're not wrong. In America, that's how it's pronounced. But I would say Iran,
Iran.
and I think that's what they would prefer too. But
To my Iranian
but
listeners,
yeah,
much
Iran.
apologies.
Yeah. So and that was wonderful, and you set the table perfectly. So it goes into my first question, and we could let's start with Joe with this one, or Chris if you want
Go to
to jump
Joe.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I why do you think? I mean, this is not. He's wearing a Yankees jersey. If he turns his camera down, you'll see he's wearing an Aaron Judge jersey. Guy who never shows up in the playoffs.
Oh, shut up.
But no, I love Aaron Judge. I'm not slight. I didn't mean to take a cheap
I
shot,
know.
but it's the truth though. Anyway, we're getting off track. So why do you? And the reason why Chris's introduction was so good is you need to understand that this has been going on for so long, and it's more of a rivalry in terms of like a religious spiritual way than just over property and airspace and like land and stuff like that. This goes deep back, way longer than anyone is talking about. So my question to you is this a response? Is Israel responding to a potential threat, or do they want to demolish like the Arab world, like the Persian state? That's the first question.
So I don't think they want to destroy the Arab world. They need allies in the region to do any of the goals that they have. I do think it's a response, and um I'm trying to figure out it's a preemptive measure or strike too. So basically, they were funding and they were handing over weapons to their main foe, Hamas. So it just makes sense why they would,
Mm-hmm.
once they would try to get rid of Hamas, they would then point their target towards Iran. So it makes sense there. To me, the question is why. they've been pointing at nuclear weapons for at least 15 years. They've particularly their prime minister Netanyahu has been saying that they're 2 years or less away from getting nuclear weapons. But he's been saying that for 15 years. How long are they going to continue to say that when it's been clear that they're not
Mm-hmm.
close to having nuclear weapons to threaten the region?
All right. So you think they're just trying to prevent a potential threat
I
to
think I think it's a few things. One, definitely prevent a threat. That I think that's their most.
the nuclear threat is what it is,
No,
right?
they're trying to
Yeah.
prevent just terrorist attacks from happening in Israel because it's been funded by Iran from Hamas. So they're trying to prevent more attacks. They're also trying to get rid of their main foe and a lot of the foes in the region. A key ally of theirs is Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia and Iran have been at pretty much at each other's throats for the past 40 years as well.
Mm.
So it's
True.
it's more of like a geopolitical thing as well as the defense thing. It's it's complicated basically.
Yeah, I think that's well said, Joe. I
Yeah.
mean, I think like we draw it under again, and anyone listening, like I'll speak for myself. I am in no way an expert. I'm just like a regular person watching the news and trying to like make sense of
And
something
process
that's
it. Yep.
very complicated. So like
Yeah.
I don't anything I say is just like armchair quarterbacking to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
No, but Joe, like I agree with Joe. Like I think the religious element is part of it, but it's not the driving force, right? Because
I
again,
would
like
disagree with that, but go ahead.
that's fair.
Yeah, yeah.
Because here's the thing: it's like I mean, because think about it, then it would have always been the driving force. But like at times, Israel was an ally of Iran, right?
Mhm.
So like in the '80s, that that revolution took place that made Iran a very religious country. I
Mm-hmm.
think there was the quote by the supreme leader during this time of saying, like during the time of Soviet Union, right? Saying, like what is like the famous line, like Israel is the little Satan, uh, America is the big Satan, and Soviet Union is the lesser Satan.
Wow.
So like think about that. This is the early '80s, and they're in a war with Iraq, and I guess in that case, Israel still supported them because it was like the lesser of two evils. So like if it was like like here's the religious line, it would just be like fend for yourself even in the long run if it's not good for us if you get destroyed. So I don't know, I think it's like again there's spheres, right? So at some levels it is religious in your decision making, but then you're dealing with geopolitics, so sometimes you got to leave your certain views on the side, and then it becomes just sheer like strategy and like of my enemies, which is the least of my enemies. So I'll join forces with them here, even though later on they might try to stab me in the back. So I think it's more complicated. I mean,
I agree. That's fair.
yeah, I think with the nuclear thing, I mean that's interesting. So I pulled up Wikipedia actually seems to be pretty good with this because I would have thought Wikipedia would have painted Israel as the villain, and in almost every one of these stories, and it doesn't. It gives a pretty like
Like balance view.
yeah, like
Good.
Iran is doing this, Israel is doing that, and it kind of like takes there's no like emotion part of it, but the nuclear part of it's very interesting. So America, they were trying to get a nuclear weapon pre the Iranian Republic. So like during the time of the Shah in the 1950s, when they were an ally of America, they were America was in support of them getting a nuclear weapon or doing like nuclear enrichment and things of that nature.
Yeah.
It's really like I think in the last probably the pivot when they became a more radical, I'm saying quotes radical, but like when religion became more of a dominating decision maker in their politics, and also when they like have pretty much said that we're America's enemy. I think that was the shift where it's like they can't get a nuclear weapon. Um, and I think also that's to Joe's point. They've been like I think that's been a talking point of like it's almost like weapons of mass destruction. Like they
Yes.
have these weapons of mass destruction, and that is like them. that always is like the reasoning for like we
It's
need to go
like
to
the
war with them.
boogeyman.
We need to go to war with them.
Yeah.
You might need to go to war with them, but like that reason is maybe not valid because you've been using that reason for 15 years. Like any day now, they're going to have it. But like after a decade, it's like, yeah, eventually they will have it. But like, you know what I mean? You're almost waiting out. If I say tomorrow they're going to have it, but every day I say that, eventually I will be right.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't, like, that's not like, we're not going to go to war for that. If you know what I mean? So I think to Joe's point, like there's the nuclear talking point. I don't know if that's accurate. I've also heard, and I think it was from the Duran podcast, maybe, I'm not sure, that, or from somewhere else, that they had intelligence that Iran was preparing an attack on them, like a major missile attack, and they did a preemptive attack. Right? So it was like they were the aggressor, but it was like we have valid intelligence that they're going to do like 1,000 missile attack on us. So they just like pull the trigger first. Because if you look at the blow by blow, and I'll link it in the description, it does seem that Israel, the IDF's attacks are strategic. Like it just lists them. It's like military headquarters, presumed nuclear facility, infrastructure for shooting off missiles. Like it's all like we're going to cut your legs out from a military standpoint. And then it does appear that the response, like when Iran sends missiles into Israel, could be wrong. It's less like tactical and it's more for like mass casualties. Like we're going to send it into Tel Aviv. I don't think there's any like military installations in Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv is like their New York City. But there's going to be a lot of deaths, or we're going to send it into this capital city. So it does seem like their tactics are slightly different. One is like we're going to hurt you and we're going to kill a lot of people. The other is like we're going to decouple you so that you
like
have no power
basically
anymore.
disarm you. Yeah.
Yeah. At least that's been my reading this. It seems to be like a theme.
Okay. So no, I
But
like
you can
that.
report, like, if you think that, like, why do you think, and I don't necessarily disagree with you, why do you think religion is more of the reason?
Because I think that's the source, in my opinion, that's the source of the conflict. Because you said these two regions obviously dislike each other, and Israel as a nation is surrounded by all like Islamic countries, or mostly. So I think the source of the disdain is religion, because the religions for thousands of years have had a rivalry with each other, as you explained in the beginning. So
Yeah.
that's the source of what's going on now. Currently, it could be about we don't want to be attacked. It's terror. It's preventing terror. It's preventing like the loss of property and land and all that. But I think that the original source of the genesis of it is religion.
Yeah, and it's interesting. The reason why I wanted to do that preamble, and we could have gone more into it, is that I almost want to say it even predates religion, right? Because if you think about it, like, again, depending on who you read for history, right? But like, if we go, like, that region, like the Persians conquered, let's say, within the history of like, I'm gonna use the word biblical history of ancient Israel, they would maybe called something else. Like in their mindset, the kingdom of Israel was conquered by Persians and the Medes. This was well before they were Islamic. So it's almost like the Hatfields and the McCoys, like this whole part of the world, these tribal peoples have like long-standing animosities that go back like thousands of years, like pre-Islam, like when we were worshiping this, like when people were worshiping the sun. And like I believe that's why I say, like, whether they're consciously aware of it or not, like these tribes have animosity, they hate each other. And you're right, it does play out. I do think it's like Jew, Israeli, Semitic person versus like my ancient ancestors. There's still like a vendetta there, whether you're consciously aware of it or not. Like I tend to read history that way. I could be wrong.
No, I would be inclined to agree with you on that one. That's what I don't think people are talking about enough in the corporate media.
Well, and I think it's hard because it's like people like to look at the facts, and it's like, how do you say, the reason you hate this person is because of like 1,000 years your tribe has hated this tribe, and
This,
you don't remember that tribe, but it's like in your blood. Like you have you have prejudice essentially against this group,
yeah, man.
and like we try to not believe. Like for example, in Africa, people look the same, but they have long-standing
Oh, definitely.
tribal
Tribes, yeah.
animosities.
Yeah.
We look at the Houthis and the Tutsis, right? Like Rwanda, the people look exactly the same. They're neighbors. They know that they're different tribally, and like that prejudice might go back in their history. I don't know, 1,000 years. They know like we're not the same tribe. We look similar, but I know that you're not me, and something inside me doesn't like you.
Yeah. No, I think that's well said.
I don't. Do you
So,
agree with that, Joe, or do you just? I mean, what are your thoughts?
For the most part, I think it's a. I think it all stems from land, just being of a land, trying to, uh, trying to bond with your history, your lineage. I think it comes really more from that, and history is kind of, religion is kind of being used as a jumping off point for that.
Yeah, I think
okay.
I agree with that.
And
So
I think we I
yeah,
differ from you two on that one. I think the source of everything is the religious beliefs, but um, but what you're saying is not wrong. It is about like property and land. That's part of it.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
it all mixes
Yeah.
up to a degree, right?
So my next question is it leads into my next question is what's coming out from like in the media in Israel and from like the Persian uh, area. Is it propaganda or misinformation? Do we in America are we getting actually the correct facts of what's happening?
Mhm.
Joe,
I think that's a great question. I personally think that it's definitely misinformation being spread around
you're right.
on all sides. Um, there's definitely competing interests, and it's all being fed through corporate media, through independent media. There's different factions just trying to get out their own propaganda, and it's hard for people to kind of parse through what's real and what's not, or what's kind of a white lie and what's not. So it's definitely a little murky. Um, when it comes to war, me personally, I tend especially coming off of what happened in like my youth, my adolescence with the Iraq War. I tend to distrust what the corporate media and what the government is saying about um, getting into war. So it, it's it's definitely it's murky. Basically, it's hard to try to figure out what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with that. I mean, and I think it's even if there's you take out like nefariousness, just the fact of like unless you have eyes on this, unless you're there, you really are just trusting that someone else has saw it, that they interpreted what they
Mhm.
saw correctly, right? Like I think it's like you can even take out propaganda, and it's just like in essence, unless you're there, you have no idea. You're just still trusting people. You're trusting that they, right? We know this to be true that like even in crimes, eyewitnesses are not necessarily. You get three eyewitnesses that watch the same event.
And
They'll tell three different stories, right?
okay,
Because
true.
you're paying attention to different things. Everything is interpreted through your own lens. So I think that's the thing. I do think there's definitely. I mean, there's definitely propaganda, right? It's like just look at what's going on in Palestine and Israel, right? The same event will be interpreted vastly different, right? Like a bombing, like if the IDF bombs something in Palestine, what you'll get from Israel, for right or wrong, I don't know, will be like this was a tactical attack. All the majority of the people we let, which I don't know if it's true, but you hear it. Like we contact the area, we give everyone time to leave, so to try to cut down on casualties. We're focusing on areas that are tactical, though you know Hamas does make their tactical locations also right next to or underneath of civilian like hospitals and schools and whatnot. And then you'll hear on the other hand propaganda that comes out of Hamas that no, they're just like like they're just sending missiles into hospitals for no reason other than like mass casualty.
Mhm.
The truth has got to be somewhere in the middle, but there's definitely propagandists on both sides. So again, unless you were there and you saw it, and then you were also in the decision making room where they made the decision, it's like you don't really know. Which it makes life difficult, right? Because it's like, how do you have an opinion on something if you're not really there when everything is filtered through? Even the people talking about it on the news, the majority of them are not
That's what I'm
there,
saying.
Mhm.
Yeah.
unless it's like someone who's embedded.
See,
You
that's the problem I have with kind of trusting Israeli news sources. They don't let in independent media or even corporate media for that matter into war zones. Every other war zone that's been played out in the 21st century,
Yeah, I do
you've
know that.
had media embedded
Yeah.
in that area. They could tell what was going on in that space. That's not happening now. So it's hard to decipher what's happening. And you have from my perspective, it's kind of hard to trust someone who doesn't let in an independent source kind of verify what they're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that, and I can't even
Neither
fact
did I.
check that. So like,
Yeah.
if that's the case, then yeah, it's like you're just taking everyone's word for it,
Mm-hmm.
and even if they're the right, it's like again, it's like no one's perfect. So there's like I if everything you're giving me is like this was the mission, it was executed 100%, no issue, no
Mhm.
problems. It's like, well, that's not reality, right? There's obviously, even if you are the on the right side of history in this case,
Mistakes happen. Yeah.
yeah, you're not probably gonna like bring up where you made your mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I think that's valid. And again, I don't
Yeah.
think I wouldn't trust anything that comes out of Hamas either,
Mm-hmm.
right? So again, that's why we're kind of
I
left
agree.
in the
Yeah.
middle, just like I don't know what to believe. And I think in that case, the best choice is like not having an opinion. Like I feel like too many people have strong opinions based off of limited data. You're like, so you think this is the right side, or you think that's the right side. It's like, but you're not there. You don't know. I'm an American. I don't even know the two sides and really the intricacies of the conflict.
I don't think it's fair to say that someone shouldn't have an opinion.
Okay, you're
Um,
right. I mean, who am I to tell you to have an opinion about?
that's just my stance on that. I just think there just needs to be a bit more um so, something needs to be done about trying to figure out what are the facts on the ground, and if we're not going to do that, then we should just pull out. That's just my sense on the whole thing. We shouldn't be entangled in all of these world affairs every
Mhm.
single time. It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, this is a good pivot. I feel like this is kind of where we should
This
spend a good chunk of time.
this
So
is where it's a perfect segue
Okay.
for what I was just gonna say. Sorry, I cut you off, Chris.
No.
Go ahead.
no, go ahead. No, I feel like you have
No,
some questions
because
on
it's
this
exactly
area.
what I was gonna say, and I think this is what you were alluding to. Um, what do you think specifically about America being involved in all this? What do you think about the president coming out and when he's talking about Israel in like conflict with Iran, he says we when he's talking about the United States and Israel. It's always we. He's been using that language. You see what I'm saying? So it looks like America. It looks like Israel and America are just like. It's almost as Israel's controlling the the meat. I shouldn't say that. That's
Yeah.
going to go down a different
No,
rabbit
you,
hole.
you
Yeah.
just reminded
Yeah,
me.
but you get what I'm saying.
I
Like,
saw
why
a
is he
clip.
saying we? Yeah.
I saw a clip of Tucker
Yeah.
Carlson saying basically the same thing. Like
Did he?
we're yeah
But
he was saying that Israel is controlling the United States.
yeah, I'm not going to go that
Yeah,
far.
I
I'm
know,
not going
I
that
know,
far.
but he was
But
saying that.
yeah,
That's why I
Yeah, I
was
mean,
laughing
I watched his interview
with
with Ted
Ted Cruz.
Cruz,
Yeah.
and it got pretty heated.
yeah,
But I think he brought up a number of good points. I think
yeah,
this is the road you want to kind of go down.
yeah,
Avery is like,
yeah,
and this is kind of like what my questions is like.
yeah.
All right, again, I set the table of these long-standing tribal conflicts, right? a part of the world that at different times is friends and different times they're enemies. Again, if you go on Wikipedia, there's literally a wiki that's Iran Arab-Israeli conflict. It ends in 1979. These two groups that were pretty much had killed members of each other's society now are okay with each other, for lack of a better word. They're even, I think, allies. I think Saudi Arabia is an ally with Israel. And now we have Israel and Iran conflict that's pretty much been going on since the 80s. And I'm not even saying who's right or who's wrong. I guess my question, and I think this is where you want to go, Avery, is like, how do we fit in the puzzle?
Yeah,
and I think this is the whole Tucker thing, and a lot of people from both sides of the political spectrum. It's
exactly.
Like,
from
where do we fit
from
in
either
this
side.
story? Where, how much should we be involved? Are we doing something on the behest of Israel, or is this what we've always wanted to do, and it just kind of coincides that both of our goals are in alignment? Could he have stopped this attack? Did he give the okay for the attack? Is he trying to show that he's still in control by saying like this is our decision? In reality, it's like he was having a diplomatic meetings with Iran very recently, literally coinciding with the time these attacks occurred.
Mm-hmm.
Did he know the attack was going to happen, and now this was all like a subterfuge? Like, hey, we're going to have this diplomatic conversation, so I'm going to keep your mind off of the reality that Israel is planning to send missiles to you.
Oh my God.
I mean, this is kind of like where
That would be wild. Yeah.
I mean, it's not unheard of within the scope of like geopolitics. I mean,
You're
I think
right,
we could
you're
find
right.
examples of this all throughout history.
Yeah,
Right?
you're right. You're right.
Like it wouldn't be like that. Strategically, it would be very smart to do that. Like, hey, let's have this diplomatic mission, and then I know that while you're paying attention to me, this attack is going to happen. So I don't know. Like, that's the questions I have. It's like we grew up with 9/11, which then led to our generation. Like, how many people we watched 9/11 that were our age, who that led them to join the military?
Yeah.
And then they spent their majority of their 20s and 30s, or at least 20s, in Iraq and Afghanistan. So are we just like starting that cycle
all over again?
Interesting.
All over again?
Very interesting.
That to me is like, I'm like more of that. Like, I'm not smart enough to know who's the right and who's wrong. I just think of like Americans, and like, I have friends that have kids. So is this going to be their 9/11? And now their generation is going to be wrapped up in a war for the next 20 years? Because Iran is not Iraq. Like, I think they're the largest country in Asia. They have massive like oil exports. They're not like a pipsqueak.
Yeah.
For colorful language. Anyway, that's kind of like what I'd like to talk about for a while.
No, yeah, you're right. Now you're speaking my
So
language.
if you have questions in that domain, I think
we're
that's
talking
important.
about the industrial complex and the contractors. Now you're speaking my language. That's just but Joe, go ahead. What do you think about just like a generation growing up in a war that's nowhere near where they, as Chris said, where you could actually see what's happening? You're not involved in it. It's so far away.
Yeah.
But there's going to be hundreds of thousands of Americans that are wrapped up in this and dying.
Dude, dying, man. I care about the peasant class. I care about us, the regular people.
Exactly, that are going to be dying. Exactly.
Yeah, like they're the ones that spill their blood. It's not like a politician, and it's not Ted Cruz. It's not like any political person.
Correct.
Like they write with a pen and paper, and then people go die. That's like who I particularly care about. But go ahead, Joe.
I'm with you.
Sorry.
So I don't think we should be involved whatsoever, for numerous reasons. Some that you've actually pointed out, Chris, where there's no need for American lives to be pretty much wasted in a foreign war that is probably 3,000 miles away. The ramifications of the war, not even on us, but on their neighbors, is even worse. Like there's already issues in Europe with the mass migration, and if Israel and the United States are bent on doing a regime change, the same thing that George W. Bush did in Iraq, then that's going to be a nightmare for Europe, where you're going to have tons of refugees coming over from Iran into a bunch of places like Turkey or
Good point.
like maybe Saudi Arabia, probably Eastern Europe, probably even Northern and Western Europe. So it's just going to cause more problems.
Yeah, yeah.
And the
So,
amount of money that we would waste moving
hmm
equipment like aircraft carriers, bombers, all that stuff from vast places all over the world to that area just to aid in a regime change doesn't make sense as well. It's just all across the board. None of this makes sense on the US side. It just doesn't.
so why do you think we are involved then?
I think it's a I
Because
think
it inevitably is going to happen. Yeah.
the world, especially after World War II, but it's always been that way before that. It's been a mass entanglement of like allies and trying to show that you're going to be there for an ally in their time of need, and Israel doesn't have that many allies in that region. So United States, they want to show Israel that, okay, if something happens to you, we'll be there for you. And
Yep.
they're also like a little outpost for the Middle East too. So the Middle East, because of their oil, and now they're burgeoning like tourist destination that they have.
hmm
It's a
Yep.
important area for the West. So a way to keep them in check or in control is to have like places like Saudi Arabia and Israel on your side to do business with.
Yep.
So I think that's a big part of that too. So I think that's why the U.S. wants to help out Israel.
hmm
So it's just a messed up situation, man. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
I don't know
extremely
how we're gonna
complex.
Now,
get
do
out of
you
it.
think? And again, anyone who's listening, I'm not trying to like. I'm not prejudiced like against Israel, or I'm not
Yeah,
for Iran. I'm like purely. I look at this stuff as I try to.
yeah,
Like I can't imagine growing up in Israel where literally your surrounding neighbors
that's
do
what I
want
said
to destroy
earlier.
you.
Every
I
day,
believe that is accurate.
every
That's
I
day.
don't.
that's
Yeah.
I don't
yeah.
think that's propaganda. I think that's
No,
100%
I agree with you.
accurate.
Yeah. hmm
And that you grow up where even people in our age bracket, like missiles have come in. There
hmm
have been suicide attacks where you're in a nice part of Israel at a cafe and someone gets on a bus and blows it up. Like I
Hmm.
don't think any of that is propaganda. I think that's all. I think it's real. That's
Hmm.
true.
It's fact.
And
It is fact.
if you grow up like where your neighbors are all trying to destroy you, which I don't think they're the ones inciting them to destroy them. That's
hmm
my view. Like you're going to like you're going to look at the surrounding environment much differently than we will, right? You're going to have to be aggressive because it's like going to jail. What do they say when you go to jail? Someone starts with you, you beat the crap out of them.
The
My
first
God.
the
You got
first
to
day
start
you're in
you got
jail,
to
you beat
come
the shit
in
out of someone.
hard, right? You got
Yeah.
to know I'm not a punk. Like if you're going to mess with me, you might win, but you're going to get hurt
Right.
too.
Even if I get messed up,
And I mean, we
I'm still
grew up,
fighting.
yeah, we grew up in the one of the
Facts.
most powerful nations in the world where it's like walking around and you're 6'3" and you just have never been like threatened. It's just like you
It's no
don't even know what
challenge.
that
Yeah.
feels like. And then you have Israel who's like, I know what it feels like. That's like our day-to-day operations. That's how we've existed
It's an excellent
since
point.
since we've been reestablished. So like I'll be honest, with you, that's my bias. I buy into that. I believe that's accurate. I
I
don't
agree
think
with
they're the
you.
boogeyman. I think that even if in their aggression, you have to look at that aggression through the lens of we're like the how are we it's we're like one versus many. Like if we're aggressive, it's because we kind of have to be, because if we are very peaceful, one of you guys is going to probably try to stab us while we're not paying attention.
No, no, was that Harriet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
that's a
mean, I think that's not propaganda. Like I do
that's
think
an
that's
excellent point.
I think
Yeah,
that's true. Um,
yeah, excellent.
one other thing is like I think Joe, I think you're 100% right. Like I do think you see Trump making more deals with like the Arabs, because I think like like Dubai, all of their major tourist hubs,
And they
and
say
you
the
can see,
financial
yeah, and
reason.
you can
Yeah.
see, and also like you guys have talked about with sports, right? They're now
Mm-hmm.
transitioning into becoming
Oh
like
yeah.
key owners of entertainment. So
Mm-hmm.
from their standpoint, I think that's why you see like they're more allies now with Israel. They're tightening their relationship with America. They're also kind of like saying like no to more like radical Islam because they're like, yo, oil is going to become a thing of the past eventually. We're going to make money off the West because we're going to own all of the things that they like, their cultural things. So
Mhm.
that's why you see a shift. And I do think that, like to your point, Joe, like it's like there's a strategic part of that. And again, I agree with you. Like to go to war with Iran, no one's even talking about the surrounding countries
Mhm.
that would impact,
Mm-hmm.
like Qatar and all of these countries. Like
Mhm. Yeah.
they're allies of America. Like their people will be affected by this, and then also Europe will, because what happens in war? What happened in the Ukraine when the war kicked off? Anyone who could leave Ukraine
They left.
Left.
Yeah.
left Ukraine, and now they're all living in parts of Europe,
Poland. Yep.
right?
Yep.
That's going to happen in Iran. Iran has 92 million people. That's a big ass
Not a small
population,
country. Yeah.
right? And it's like, okay, if a lot of them do have means, if a war kicks off, those people are not. I wouldn't stick around. I would be out as fast as I could. I'm not gonna like watch my children die because of choices I have no control over.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, go ahead, Avery.
Avery.
What else you
Yeah,
got?
they'll move to West Los Angeles. Is where they'll move. That's where
Oh
you know
They'll
God.
be on. They'll be on what, the Persian
the
Housewives on
yeah
Bravo.
the Shahs of Sunset.
There you go.
Yeah, they're all gonna go. They'll go to West Los
The
Angeles. I
wealthy
guarantee
ones
you.
will be in
Yeah.
the UK. They'll be living in London. They'll be living in LA, Miami, New York. And I
Yeah.
don't knock them. I
Yeah.
would do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
This idea of
I
staying in a
agree.
country
Yeah.
and watch and like, because I mean patriotism, it's like I'm not going to stick around if I didn't start this war. I'm not going to watch my family die because of politicians' choices.
Yeah. No. Spot on. Facts. You already took one of my talking points. Surrounding countries. That's what I wrote down. Now let me ask Joe this. Now, in terms of a military operation question, what's going on with the airspace defense? Like, is Iran's who has the better like defense system set up, Israel or Iran?
Israel. I mean,
Yeah,
it's an easy answer.
yeah,
They have more high tech equipment supplied
yeah.
by the United States, supplied by like
Mm-hmm.
the Raytheons of the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's easy. It's Israel.
Because the reason why I asked is there's people saying that Israel beefed up their airspace recently, knowing that they were going to do that strike
Yeah,
on
I
Iran.
wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I wouldn't be
Yeah,
surprised either. I mean, they were the aggressor, so it's like that
yeah.
makes obviously like from a strategic standpoint, if you know you're about to do an attack and there's going to
Okay.
be a response,
Yeah, correct.
you have the
Yeah.
luxury of planning the when you're going to do the attack, so you're going to prep for it.
Right. So yeah, that was my
So
military.
let me ask you a question then. So like,
Yeah.
okay, if America, let's just say for argument's sake that they're not captaining this play, they're reacting to events. How I'm trying to think how to maybe this is maybe one of your questions, because this is kind of like what's tied. Like, what should our response be? Like, yes, they're our ally. Do we, if Israel, like, if this turns into like we're gonna not just we're this is it, like this is the hill we're gonna die on, like this is the beginning of a war, like we're gonna go in, and when we leave, one of us is not leaving the cage, in essence, right? Like this is not like, oh, we're just going to destroy your nuclear. And I think this is kind of part of the conversation. It's
Yeah,
like
it is.
part of it's like, oh, we're just going in to destroy like these nuclear capabilities and some of your infrastructure, so you can't shoot missiles at us, right?
Mhm.
Or another argument is like, no, this is like Netanyahu's, like
Regime change.
yeah, he's like, I've been waiting for this. I'm deciding I'm going. Like we're taking him out. This is done. No longer will you be like a thorn in our side. No longer will you have like, when we go to bed at night, you got a knife and you're prowling around. we're taking you out. What should America's like with our own interest? How do we deal with that? Like, because they're our ally, do we say, all right, you giddy up, let's go? Do we give you resources? Do we kind of just like, we got your back. We'll make sure no one sneaks up on you, but this is like you guys get in the ring and fight it out. We're just going to make sure that no one else gets involved. Like, what should our response be? Because I don't know the answer. I don't know what is being decided. I think that's what's happening behind closed doors. Like, those are the decisions being made. How far do we support them? Or are they a proxy of ours? And we're going to kind of like really, people say that Israel is like controlling America. It's like, well, what if like the goal has always been, let's take out Iran? The neocons have wanted to go take out Iran for a while. And they're just like, we're going to let you guys kind of like start this fight and you're our ally. So we have to get involved. And then we're just going to give you the boots, essentially.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
Good. No, I want to answer. I think Joe should answer this because I think. Do you think we're ever gonna, to Chris's point? Do you think we're ever gonna get involved, like actual
like a
operation?
Hot war, yeah.
Yeah. It's cooking. It's boiling right now.
Yeah. I think what Trump is doing is more saber rattling. I think he's trying to scare Iran into just complete surrender, which is doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why you would do. My whole thing with Trump and his negotiating, it shouldn't be, when it comes to foreign diplomacy, it should not be done in plain view. It should be done behind the scenes. So, because you don't know how someone's going to respond when they're put in a corner. So, I just wish that they would let Witkoff and Vance do their job. Just go over to that area, negotiate, and see if they can talk each other off of a ledge. The only worry that I have is Netanyahu seems like he's hell bent on regime change. He just wants to get rid of the supreme leader and put in whatever group he wants to put in. So that's what I'm afraid of. If, to answer your question, Chris, based on what I just said, if Israel is hell bent on doing their own thing, then we should not be involved. We should just put up defensive capabilities for them, and then let them do all of the offensive stuff, and go from there. Me personally, if I was actually the president, I would just pull out altogether. I wouldn't sell any weapons to Israel. I wouldn't sell any weapons to Saudi Arabia. I wouldn't sell any weapons to anyone or give any assistance to anyone in that whole region. Let that play out. If they want to destroy each other, that's fine. We got our own problems here. I want this whole idea of America first, to me, is not being fully followed, and I wish that we would follow it, because it doesn't make sense why we should continually get involved in these foreign affairs.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like, I think you're not a MAGA guy.
No.
But it does sound like you kind of are parroting a lot of, I think, because there's a lot right now, I think, with some of Trump's response to what's going on. I think people who are MAGA people are kind of like, how is this America first? And I think that's there was like a Tucker Trump thing, and Trump was like, I created
crazy
America first, which is like, I don't know if that's true, man.
It's crazy to say.
I get to define. It's like, well, yeah, no. Like, let's be honest. Like, America first is to some degree isolationism. Like, let's just focus on our thing. Isolationism,
and that's been a thing since like the 1920s. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
I mean, it's been around in some form or the other since there were people, right? It's like, we're gonna do our thing. Don't come mess with us. If you come mess with us, we're gonna kill you all. But other than that, you do what you know. Just stay out of our backyard. Yeah. And again, I think part of that is like it's like libertarianism. Like, when I was talking to Radesky, I think he said, "Oh yeah, you, me, Joe, you, me." I was there. It's like, I agree with him. It's like libertarians are kind of like, to some degree, and I'm philosophically libertarian, but it's kind of like they're never happy. Like literally, the government could be dissolved, and there's literally one department left, and they would be like, "It's a failure,"
Get
right?
rid of that department.
It's like, but you've gotten 90% of what you want. Like
Yeah.
there's only 10% remaining. Like take a win, but it's kind of like an all or nothing. I think when you get into politics, or you not even politics, when you get into leadership, like I'm gonna throw like in a politicians a bone or leader. I think there are certain situations where it's kind of like your decisions, your options are become very limited. Where it's like you just have two options. They're both bad options. Like because the chess pieces get moved, and it's like I would like if I had control over both sides of the board, I would like this, but I don't. So it's like kill X, kill Y, or suicide. And you're like, oh well, I'm not going to commit suicide, so I'm killing somebody here, right? And it's like neither of them are good options, and you're kind of forced. Like the option to run away and to live on the Riviera is not there anymore. So you're just like, I have three bad options. I'm not going to kill myself. So one of you is going to die. So I think that's kind of part of politics where people start to say, oh, well, you're betraying your principles. It's like, well, principles are good, but principles exist within a perfect world. And like, we don't, once you're a leader, it's not a perfect world anymore.
Is
But
that
I agree.
your dream, Chris, to live on the French Riviera?
No, it sounds kind of nice.
I've been there. It is nice.
Does it sound like a good dream to have?
It's beautiful.
But again,
But French people won't like you. French
fair.
people don't like Americans.
I mean, French people are not liked by a lot of people.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. They're Vikings that became too civilized. It's pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
Didn't they? But yeah, I mean, to that same question, Rob, like, I don't know, man. I'm kind of like, this is an area where me and Joe, I think, are in agreement. Like, I'm down for, like, don't like war. I'm like, kind of like, can't we just live lives, like, and eat food and have good lives and do what you want to do? I was literally thinking about this before we had this conversation. I'm like, why? It's like something fundamental about human beings. Like, you can't just do your own thing. Like, you need to have what someone else has. And like, to your point about land, Joe, it's kind of like that. It's like, I think there's a tenet in, and actually this ties into what your underlying point was, Avery. Like, I think there's a tenet in the Quran of like Islamic land, and like once his land becomes like Islamic land, like you as a Muslim, again, anyone who's Muslim, I don't know the Quran in and out, so don't hate me. But anyway, I think there is fundamentally, whether you believe it or not, I think there's part of it where it's kind of like you have kind of like you're called to maintain that land is always Islamic land.
Yeah, I've heard that,
and I'm pretty sure that's accurate. So like, I think to
that also plays on both sides too. I've read and also seen accounts of like Israeli settlers taking land in the West Bank, trying to take land in Gaza. So it's just
one subtle difference.
Crazy.
One subtle difference, I think, and to give the Zionist its due, they have a specific geographical landmass of which they identify as like the Kingdom of Israel.
But that doesn't matter. When a state is created for you by the UN and the UK and the United States, and you have borders drawn, crazy borders where it's like a amoeba shaped like state, you have to abide by them. You can't just go into another place and say, okay, we are taking this land because we have it based off of our religion. This is thousands of years ago. Why are you basing
it's not based. So I wouldn't say. I would say when you're talking about Israel, and again, I don't want to go down to this because neither of us are experts in the subject, and it kind of gets us away from the current events. But I would say when it comes to Israel, it's not a religion. It's a tribe, and it's not a religion. Not everyone who is a child of Abraham is also religious. It's an ethnic group, right? Whereas Islam is a religion, not an ethnic group. Right. And when you talk about the dissemination of Islam across the globe, is directly tied to conquest. Like, why is it that there are parts of the Soviet Union far away from Arabia that are Muslim? But it's because the Mongols conquered all of these areas. The Turks, right? Turkey was Greek for all intents and purposes. till the Ottomans came and conquest, and they became Muslim. So it's more tied to conquest. Like, why do we have Bangladesh and Pakistan?
Yeah.
Muslims came in, conquered India. Those areas were controlled, and then eventually they became their own countries. I
But
don't
see,
think you can make the same link
but even
to
with
Judaism.
Bangladesh and Pakistan and India, there were borders drawn up, and people don't want to abide by these borders. They want to.
That's fine.
So you cannot just say it's literally illegal for you to just go into a certain area and say I'm taking this land because our tribe was destined to be
Mm-hmm.
on it. You
Again, I
can't.
don't know. That's why I don't want to focus on, because I don't know the
Yeah.
inner workings. Because then we can get into, well, the Gaza Strip at different parts. They pulled all the Israeli settlements were pulled back, and they were given this land, and then they've also been kind of trying to. I mean, October 7th was essentially an incursion of one people into
Hmm.
another geographical
Yeah.
state. So I mean, I it's like that. You get into the weeds. That's
Mm-hmm.
why it's like their reasoning for issues, like, again, Iran is funding
Yeah.
Hamas and Hezbollah.
Hmm.
That's not their land, but
Yeah,
in the
right.
mind, in
Yep.
the psyche, that's Muslim land.
Hmm.
Has nothing to do with the Persians.
And my point was, it's on both
That's what.
sides.
Well, fair.
It's on
I'll
both
give it to you.
sides.
I'll give it to you.
Yeah, right. No, I think you both hit on. That's the main point I wanted to get out of this was, I think the religious undertones of all of this is extremely important.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
no one is talking about it they as much as they should be.
I also think the land is a part of it too.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think with those two things in play, we should not be involved in an intractable like war. It's
yeah, I
never
agree with
going to
that.
end. Never going to end
Yeah,
because of
yeah.
mistakes made 70 years ago. It's
Mm-hmm.
just it's stupid.
So what would you? Okay, so here, let's as we kind of come to the end.
Mm-hmm.
What is a prediction you see? Like, given what's happening, where would you like things to go, and where do you feel like it more than likely will go? Like, wait, June 13th is the start. We're on June 20th, 7 days later, so a week of this has been going on.
Hmm.
Ideally, where do you see us like a week from now?
So everything that I've read, it's like Trump put like a 2 week like notice on like give up your nuclear program or else. So with that point being said, I personally I would hope that it's just status quo. They play their proxy wars every couple of years. They rattle each other, and then things die down for a couple of years, and then it riles up again after that. Because
Yeah,
I honestly don't see how they're going to be living in peace. I I
yeah,
don't know. See, because I honestly believe that Trump doesn't want to get into a war, but he wants to be. I think he wants to be seen as a strong leader, and he doesn't want to be embarrassed on a public
Yeah, the public image is important. Yeah.
in the public realm. So
Yeah,
I
that's a
don't
good point.
I don't know, man.
it's yeah, it's
I can't even answer.
I'm right. I
Yeah.
think I'm right there with you, Joe. It's like I think so. That's been my biggest question. I'm like, is he captaining the ship, or are people making choices and now he's having to kind of like, oh, dude, I didn't want you to do that. Why did you do that? I'm having a
Yeah,
conversation with these people. I'm trying to negotiate, and now you've essentially you're what is the expression? You're like, I don't know. You're pushing me into a situation. You've kind of like
backing him into a corner. Yeah.
you backed me into a corner. Like, how? There's no way we can continue this
Mm-hmm.
negotiation. My word means nothing, right? Because everything you do, the world is going to
It's going to reflect
assume
on. Yeah.
that I know about it, whether I do or I don't. I think that's open to. I think that's open to discussion. Like, I
Hmm.
don't know. Like, did Trump know that this was going to happen? I think he's kind of leaning
I
into
think
like,
I think they
I
told him like
I think he had some
he,
knowledge, in
he
my opinion.
I, if
Mhm.
they if
maybe.
Israel made that attack and didn't tell the United States, and
Bingo.
it's just broke. That relationship is broken.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
I think
And
that's like the worst case scenario. It's like
yeah,
if he didn't know, that's almost worse than if he did know.
hmm
Right. Imagine if they did that knowing that the US had no choice but to back them, and so they made that aggressive maneuver
Yeah,
anyway. So you're
and
right.
I think
You're right.
some people are kind of like saying that. I don't know if that's true
I
or
don't
not.
think so. I don't think
I mean, my thing would be like, well, Trump, why would you schedule this diplomatic
exactly.
meeting? You know that
Yeah.
this is going to essentially eliminate that. So was this a subterfuge where you're going to have this meeting, and now it's like, you're going to keep their mind? That's even to me, that's even worse because now
hmm
there's no coming back. It's not only that
yeah.
it's like you've
So
tricked us.
yeah, why would Iran want to give up their nuclear weapons if you're just gonna go in and destroy your just a negotiating point? And even then, like in Libya when Obama was in office, they went in and took out Libya because of their nuclear weapons, and they said they were going to not do anything because they wanted to take out their nuclear weapons, and they went in anyway and wiped out Gaddafi. So the whole point of nuclear weapons is like a deterrence.
Correct.
Like with North Korea, no one goes into North Korea because they have capability to actually send in weapons all across the world. So why would someone want to give up their nuclear weapons? It's like
No, they
a
wouldn't.
bargaining chip. So this whole idea of nuclear weapons, give them up or else, it doesn't make sense on their end.
Well, and that's why I could see someone making the argument of like why this is not like like this is not like America getting the back of Israel, that really that they're in this as a partnership,
With
because like with full like, hey, no, we know that they're the target as well, because like you're right, like if when you have and this is the whole dynamic with Russia and America, right?
Mm-hmm.
Russia, we have proxy wars with them because they have full on as many nuclear warheads as we do. So it's like we can mess with each other by sending in proxies, but like I'm not going to start a fight with you. Don't start a fight with me because it's going to devolve into potentially nuclear war. And I think like I wonder, I don't know if this is true or not, but I wonder the fact that North Korea has nuclear warheads, if the government, like American government's like, we can't allow that to happen again because now this little pipsqueak over here that we could destroy very easily, we can't because he has the golden gun, and like because of that, he's allowed to do whatever he wants, and like he could be a freaking Genghis Khan within his own country doing whatever he wants, and we can't check him because he has it. So we're not going to allow anyone else who's of a similar ilk to have a nuclear weapon. I kind of like, so like if and then from if you're the Genghis Khan character, you're like, I ain't gonna ever give this up. Like you're gonna like, because then I know I've already seen what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So this essentially becomes like a suicide mission. Like, well, I guess we're gonna go out on our shield because the alternative is we give you this and now we have no teeth anymore, and you have all the power. So I that's like my worry is like you're just gonna back them into a corner where it's like, okay, I guess this is a existential war now. Like you're gonna try to kill us and destroy our hold on this country. This is like it's life or death at this point. Then so we're gonna fight tooth and nail. That to me is like the worst case scenario.
yeah.
Do you think they have nuclear weapons?
I personally don't think they have nuclear. I think they have nuclear enrichments, but I don't think they have the capability to make them a weapon yet.
Okay.
Interesting.
All right.
All right, what
So
else? What else in your notebook have we not
this
hit before
this
we
is
wind down?
this is my last question. Which is that was a good conversation. It segues perfectly to this question. Will we every speaking of like war now, it's always missiles and like drones now. Are
Mm-hmm.
we ever going to see infantry military on the ground in this conflict?
I hope not. Primarily one reason because Iran is like if you thought Iraq was bad, Iran apparently has like so much mountainous terrain. There's no way they're gonna be able to win it. It's like going into like Vietnam all over again. There's no way
Yeah.
you're gonna have infantry put into Iran. It's just impossible. There's no way.
Uh, so America would never do that. They would American and Israeli and the IDF going
See, that's the
into
thing.
Iran.
I don't know how do you do a regime change without that though. Like
I mean, I think what you do is like in the changing in war conflict, I think is just massive bombardments, and
Yeah,
then it's
it's
like
just all remote. It's like
you
remote.
just like loosen them up, you soften them up, you pretty much take out all the fight with drones and missiles, and then you essentially blockade them. So there's like you're just gonna like eat this forever,
and then
and
what?
then well, and then once you've essentially destroyed all infrastructure, all fight, then you send in your troops, and you just do it in small scale.
Oh man.
I mean, think about it. The one net positive, loosely speaking, is that you do have people who've trained in Iraq and Afghanistan
Mhm.
for decades, who know
They know the
combat
area.
in
Yeah.
well, not the area, but they
And-
know like how to fight in mountainous terrains, how to fight in
Yeah.
like where there's hills and deserts and like
But it's still you
I'm not
still
saying it's
fight.
good.
Yeah, because you're fighting in. It's not like you're fighting in the United States where you know your area. You're still fighting in a foreign area.
But
You
that's
don't-
like the nature of fighting, right?
Okay.
Like every American battle has been fought outside of America,
Mhm.
Ugh.
right? And I don't know. I mean, but I think that's what because like drones, like why would you send in troops in early on? You're just gonna missile them indefinitely, like missiles, ballistic missiles, drone. Tactical. Like you're just gonna like use military superiority. I mean, that's the thing. I think like these attacks, and we can all do more research later. Is like
Mhm.
have been on military installations. They're like essentially taking away all of their offensive and defensive tools. So now it's like in UFC. It's like if you break someone's arms or like someone dislocates their shoulder, it's like that's dead now. They are now open target. They can't defend themselves, right?
Yeah.
Right. Or if you take someone's leg out from under them,
the
they're
calf
just
kicks.
they're just there, and all they can do is take damage.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like that's what it is. And I kind of wonder if Trump is kind of saying, what did he say? He said surrender. I wonder, to give him credit, if he's using this as like
This is
maybe
definitely negotiating.
maybe
point.
it does have his
It
hand,
is.
his control over like Netanyahu a little bit, and the goal would be maybe to give him too much credit is like if like behind the scenes, like I'm gonna send this out like surrender. Behind the scenes, I'm saying I can stop this, but you got to do what I want to do, and you've already seen like if you don't, like they've already taken away some of your strength. It's like if we don't do anything, they're just going to keep bombing you indefinitely.
But the problem there is they can just look at what happened with Obama and Gaddafi. They can't trust what
True.
what the United
America.
States. Yeah, you can't trust what they're going to say or what they're going to do. So
Yeah.
because they can just swoop in and now you don't have any defenses, they can swoop in and take you out.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the more damaging things like America has done to itself. When you're ruthless, why would anyone trust you?
Yeah.
True.
Right? Like in that interview, Tucker was talking to Ted Cruz, and he was
Yeah.
like, do you think like Mossad has like spies in America? And I was kind of like, Tucker, shut up. Like, obviously they do. Obviously.
No, but
I think-
Tucker knew that. He was trying to get
I know he's trying
Cruz
to
on the record.
obviously, but it was kind of like,
Yeah.
and Ted was like, "Yeah, I think we have spies there." But here's the thing: every ally of ours also knows that at one day they could become our enemy,
Mhm.
right? You see how someone deals with like other countries; they're not trustworthy anymore. Like, that to me is the biggest thing with like the whole Trump thing. If Trump knew that this was coming while he's having like some type of diplomatic mission,
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
no one will ever trust you again. Why would anyone
Yep.
trust you like that your word means something? They might trust that you're dangerous, but like they're not going to trust you in good faith because it's like, well, what about this? You were having a diplomatic people were literally having lunch with you, and if you knew that at the same time people died. Like Iranians are dying.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mhm.
mean, whether they're military or not, like lives have been lost, like fathers have been killed.
Yeah.
You know.
So
Anyway,
this world is crazy right now.
Yeah.
see,
Well,
war is
I think
ridiculous.
it's always been crazy, but
I think so
yeah.
too. I think so too.
My last point is this whole little scenario does it. It doesn't make us safe here. You keep putting us in
This is a good point.
in the the role of being attacked, whether it's like some shitty like car ramming thing, which is like the all the rage now in Europe, and it happened in New York like a few years ago too. Like you're putting normal civilians in the
Mhm.
United States in danger by
Yeah.
playing these war games, and I just wish they would just stop. Just let if you have all these allies and financial entanglements, that's fine. But once you put civilians in danger here and abroad, then you just need to step back and just cut ties.
Yeah.
There's no reason why there could be another 9/11 that can happen at any point or 10 years down the line because you wanted to show that you're superior or you have dominance or over the other. It's just it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I'm there with you. What about you, Avery? What's your like final thoughts on this topic?
My final thoughts is, I mean, this may be too pie in the sky idealistic, but I'm with both of you. I want America to just not be involved at all in any way, shape, or form. But I also want the two countries to be peaceful, which I don't think can ever happen at this point now.
Well, yeah.
So I think we're too far gone in terms of like a global type of war. I think that's also potentially on the table. That might be too conspiratorial,
Yeah.
but
I mean, think about World
because
War
I
One,
think,
man.
yeah,
It
I think
started very small and got very big.
exactly. Russia could easily get involved.
But with who?
We
That's
don't,
the thing. Because they have a
just
close,
because they don't like us.
but
Just because
they have a somewhat close relationship with Israel too. So I don't
Who?
with Russia.
I don't know. I mean, here's my final thoughts. Is like in one case, I agree with both of you. I think this
yeah,
is almost one of those rare occurrences where we all agree.
yeah.
Or that I agree with Joe. 'Cause usually, me and Joe are two edges of two different poles. But
Mhm.
one, I do think like you're right. I kind of think sometimes like with the neocons and they're all like Russia's the enemy and China's the enemy. But it's like the choices we make actually put like very powerful people into partnership with each other.
Yeah.
The exact opposite thing happens. Like the whole Ukraine Russia thing. Like we've been trying, in my opinion, we've been trying to destroy Russia since the Cold War ended. Like that, the
For
Cold
a
War
long
never
time.
really ended,
Mhm.
in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It's still always been like we're gonna get you one of these days. Like it's just a matter of time. And like I can only imagine what kind of proxies we've been engaged. I mean, think about it. Vietnam was in a sense a prox was like it
Yeah.
was us in war. Well, that
With
was
the
a direct,
Soviet Union. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's like so we moved Russia closer to China.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what if Iran gets close? Is like we're forcing them to find allies. Well, they're not going to get allies from like Saudi Arabia and some of these other Islamic nations because they've kind of said, you know what,
We're with the
Israel, do
U.S.
your thing. We want to make money and we're good. Like
And
Egypt has no desire to be friends with the Palestinians. Like they've
Iran
kind of,
has been completely against
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia too because they don't want like the kings. They want like
The
a more religious kind of a role in Saudi Arabia.
yeah.
yeah.
And remember, Arabs conquered Iran.
Yeah.
So there's like that historic bad blood of like, we kicked you out. You're never
Mhm.
coming back.
That's true.
So it's like, all right, so now Iran, who's going to have to find an ally. So it's like, are we creating a new axis of evil? It's like China, Russia,
Eh,
North Korea, Iran. These are
Boom.
not like pipsqueaks.
You're
And it's
using
essentially,
that word a lot.
I know, for whatever reason, I'm like, it's a good.
It's an
colorful
old
word.
school. It's an old
Yeah.
school word. Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's like Iran is a big country, has a lot of oil, has a lot of resources.
Oh,
China,
this is what I was
See,
trying to allude to.
You know
Yeah.
what? Now
we're like
this,
creating a massive
you guys
boogeyman.
talking this over just made me realize I don't think there will be a world war with this. I think to me
I
the
mean, I
key.
hope not.
I
No,
hope not
don't want it.
either.
Yeah.
But I think the key player is China. I don't think they really care.
No.
And they just I think they want to be the dominant force on the planet. And I think with the world war, it just slows them down from
Correct.
doing that. So
Well, there might not be a world war, but I do think they're like America. Yes, you be the aggressor, and all of these people that you are essentially ostracizing,
we'll
They're
influence
not. They're
them.
not
Yes.
small for. They're not small fries.
we'll be allies with
Yeah,
them.
that's
Come
fair.
to us. You need resources. We have plenty of them. Like
That's fair.
we'll be
Yeah.
your friend, and eventually, maybe way past both our lifetimes, we'll just find that this whole world is like, well, actually, like in Africa, what is there's the China, what is it, road and
Belt and
I
Road.
forget, Belt and
Belt and
Road,
Road,
right?
yep.
They're definitely nefarious, but they come in and they say, hey, you need
Mhm.
infrastructure, we'll build it for you,
Mm-hmm.
we'll do it for you. Yeah, let us into your country. And over time, I mean, that what is the expression? It's like you track more flies with honey
Then you do
or
with
something
vinegar.
like that.
Then you do with
Right,
vinegar.
the vinegar. Yeah, it's like America is. I feel like we're antagonistic, and then we create more and more enemies because, like you said, Joe, it's like no one would. No, you're not going to trust someone when you have seen multiple occurrences of them betraying trust.
Mm-hmm.
So in the long run, it's like I think China will win. Now they won't have a world war because for them they're like, no, we'll just take over via like diplomacy,
Mhm.
money, these other
Technology.
things. I don't know. Anyway,
No,
I hope
that's right.
I
That's
hope
right.
nothing bad happens.
That's right. Like, yeah, to end it, you're right. Could this be the end of the Western world dominance over geopolitics and the East takes over now? I think that's what we're
I don't know.
we're aiming towards that.
That's a good
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think the one thing in our factor is still economics, like in business, like economy, right? Like if you think about it, the brain drain still exists. So like if you're Chinese and you're very intelligent and you have like entrepreneurial and goals, I think there's still a large percentage of those people that will travel via visa to try to get in America, right? I mean, how many startups in America are actually Israeli? Like Juno was an Israeli company in essence.
There's many
Right?
of them.
Mhm.
I think it's still because like as long as the hub is here, but the moment you see that hub move where like, and you do see it like Dubai, more businesses are going to Dubai to start because they're like very lenient. I don't think they charge any
Yeah,
like corporate tax, any income tax. So the moment like you see that shift where like Americans are like, no, we'd rather start our business in like
Dubai
Beijing.
wants Wall Street. They want to build their own Wall Street.
Yeah, once you
And
see
take
that
it from New York.
shift,
I'm serious.
yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
like
you're
right now, apparently I was listening to something that was like the amount of gold that was moving into America when Trump was elected, like from like you got to think gold like has not gone away, and these major states have gold reserves. They got to store it somewhere, and like your trust in a country, like they can measure in where the gold is. So the country that has the most imports of gold for storage is usually the world deems it as the safer place. So when Trump was elected, like massive imports of gold came into the US apparently. You can track this. So the moment I think resources begin to be reallocated to a different country where people are like, this is the safer place, we're going to move our wealth here, that's like the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
From my perspective. Anyway, ladies and gents, thank you for tuning in. This was our, I think this is our third current events episode. When there's something worth talking about, when the world's on fire, I'll get these.
We didn't even get into the LA stuff, which,
I mean,
but we can't.
That also,
No.
yeah.
Sorry.
That's
I didn't
fair.
mean to extend the. No, go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
I mean, it might be worth another episode because we can talk about like immigration policy and kind of what are some of the unforeseen
I would like to talk about that. Yeah.
side effects and consequences, and also
I
was
will
this predicted?
tonight.
Like the people who are making these decisions, they might have known that this was going to happen. So I think that'd be worthwhile to talk about, because that's a whole other area. That's a whole other spectrum that we can discuss. Immigration into this country, that idea, I think, was one of the deciding factors for Trump getting elected. Because for a lot of people, it was a big
Oh yeah, it's a major
checkpoint
factor.
on their decision making,
Mhm.
right and left. So I think that might be a good episode we can discuss.
Yeah.
Good. Anything else we want to talk about on this topic?
I'm so sorry.
No,
I
it's
didn't.
fine.
I didn't mean to extend the episode because we could go down another one.
Yeah, I just feel like that's going to be like literally another
Yeah.
hour conversation. And you
Yeah.
get more into politics, I think, of like, and
Yeah.
like, I know me and Joe might differ, and that's like, it might be fun to discuss.
California is just a crazy place to be right now.
Okay, so then that should be the next episode.
Yeah, we
can do that. I'm down for that.
Actually,
Maybe
no. We'll discuss offline.
All right, cool. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. I hope you learned something. I'll add some links in the description, kind of pointing you to some more resources on this topic. But yeah, hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you again next week.
Peace.